Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe and support me. In the dimly lit laboratory of a small university on the outskirts of town, Alex Manning found himself surrounded by specimens of spiders from every corner of the world. His fascination with arachnids had been a lifelong obsession and not hobby, most would say. But for Alex, spiders held a strange allure, one that beckoned him deeper into the mysteries of nature. He tapped away at his laptop, documenting patterns and behaviors from his latest research when something strange caught his eye. There, lying in the back of a drawer he'd never bothered to open, was a small, ornate amulet. It looked ancient, with intricate web-like designs engraved into its surface. A tiny gemstone rested in its center, glowing faintly in the sterile light of the lab. He reached for it, his fingers brushing the cold metal. Suddenly, the room began to swirl around him, his vision blurred, his body felt weightless, and the world as he knew it dissolved into darkness. When his eyes snapped open again, he wasn't in his lab anymore. Alex found himself standing in a world both strange and terrifying. The sky above him was a swirling mass of dark clouds, streaked with silver lines that shimmered like spider silk. Towering webs crisscrossed the horizon, stretching between giant, gnarled trees with bark as black as night. Shadows moved in the distance, large, many-legged creatures that crept through the underbrush, their eyes glowing in the dim light. "What the hell?" Alex muttered, his heart pounding in his chest. Before he could make sense of his surroundings, a massive spider emerged from the shadows, its body the size of a small car. He froze, unable to move as it approached, but there was something different about this creature. Its eyes gleamed with intelligence, and when it spoke, its voice resonated directly in Alex's mind. "Do not be afraid, human," the spider said. "I am Arachnis, leader of the eight-legged clan. You have been chosen." "Chosen? Chosen for what?" Alex stammered, his voice barely a whisper. "To become the guardian of the spider realm," Arachnis continued, moving closer. "There is an ancient pact that binds our worlds together, yours and mine. The amulet you found is the key to that pact, and by touching it, you have accepted its power." Alex felt a strange warmth radiating from the amulet, which now hung around his neck as if it had always been there. His body tingled, his senses heightened, and a strange connection to the world around him bloomed in his mind. "I didn't ask for this," Alex said, taking a step back, his mind racing. "I don't even know what this place is." "This is the spider realm, a dimension parallel to your own," Arachnis explained, her legs moving in fluid, precise motions. "For centuries, the balance between our realms has been maintained. But there are forces, dark, twisted forces that seek to disrupt that balance and invade your world. Only the Guardian can stop them." Alex swallowed hard, his mind spinning. He had come here by accident. This wasn't supposed to happen. He was just a scientist, not some mythical protector. "I don't know how to fight," he said, shaking his head. "You will learn," Arachnis replied, her eyes narrowing. "The power of the spider realm now flows through you. With my guidance, you will master it. But you must act quickly. Silthr, the renegade warlord, has already begun his invasion." At the mention of Silthr's name, Alex felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't know who or what Silthr was, but the weight of Arachnis's words made it clear. This was no ordinary villain. The next thing Alex knew, he was back in his lab. The fluorescent lights flickered above, and everything looked the same as it had before, except now, he wore the amulet, and his mind was filled with the strange events that had just occurred. For a moment, he wondered if he had dreamt the entire experience. But when he looked at his hands, he knew it was real. His fingers twitched, and as if by instinct, a thin, silver thread shot out from his palm, weaving itself into a delicate web. He stared in disbelief. "I'm not imagining this," he muttered. Arachnis's voice echoed in his mind. "The power of the spider realm is now yours. Use it wisely." Alex spent the next few days trying to adjust to his new reality. He continued his work at the university, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something dark was lurking just beyond the veil of his world. He noticed strange occurrences or people collapsing with no clear cause, mysterious webs appearing in alleyways, and whispers of creatures stalking the night. One evening, as he walked home from the lab, a scream pierced the quiet. Alex's heart raced, and before he knew it, he was sprinting toward the sound. When he turned the corner, his eyes widened in horror. A monstrous spider, far larger than any natural creature, was attacking a group of people, its legs lashing out with terrifying speed. Without thinking, Alex felt a surge of energy course through him. His body moved on instinct as webs shot from his hands, entangling the creature and pulling it away from its victims. The spider screeched, its many eyes locking onto Alex. For a moment, he froze. But then Arachnis's voice filled his mind once more. Trust in your powers, Guardian. With newfound confidence, Alex engaged the creature in battle. He swung through the air on threads of webbing, dodging the spider's attacks and delivering powerful blows. It was as if he had been doing this his entire life. Within minutes, the creature was subdued, and Alex stood victorious. But the victory felt hollow. This was just the beginning. The attack on the streets wasn't an isolated incident. Over the next few weeks, reports of strange, spider-like creatures surfaced all over the city. Alex knew that Silthr's forces were growing stronger, and it wouldn't be long before the barrier between the spider realm and the real world collapsed completely. One night, as he returned to his apartment, a knock on his door startled him. When he opened it, he found a woman standing there, her expression serious. "Alex Manning?" she asked, her voice firm but calm. "Who's asking?" Alex replied, eyeing her warily. "My name is Sarah. I work for a group called the Web Watchers. We've been monitoring your activities for a while now." "Web Watchers?" Alex frowned. "What the hell is that?" "We're an organization dedicated to protecting the world from threats like Silthr," Sarah explained, stepping inside. "We've known about the spider realm for centuries, and we've been fighting to keep the balance ever since." "You're not the first guardian, Alex, but you might be the most important one." Alex's mind whirled with questions. "Why didn't anyone warn me about this sooner?" "I didn't ask for any of this." Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder, her gaze softening. "No one ever asks to be the guardian, but the amulet chose you for a reason. And now, we're here to help." Over the next few days, Sarah introduced Alex to the Web Watchers, an eclectic group of scientists, cryptozoologists, and warriors, all dedicated to keeping the spider realm's forces at bay. With their guidance, Alex trained rigorously, learning how to better control his powers, how to navigate between dimensions, and how to anticipate Silthr's moves. But time was running out. Alex stood at the edge of the abandoned warehouse where Sarah had tracked Silthr's forces. His heart pounded in his chest, the weight of the amulet heavier than ever around his neck. He knew this was it. If Silthr succeeded in opening the rift between the dimensions, the real world would be overrun. Humanity would have no defense against the creatures of the spider realm. Arachnis's voice echoed in his mind. "You must act now, Guardian. The rift is already forming. If it opens fully, there will be no way to close it." "I know," Alex muttered, tightening his grip on the webbing that now felt like an extension of his own body. "I just hope I'm ready for this." Beside him, Sarah adjusted her tactical gear. The Web Watchers had armed themselves with experimental technology and energy weapons that had been tested on smaller spider realm creatures, but nothing on the scale of what they might face tonight. "Ready?" Sarah asked, her voice calm despite the tension in the air. "Let's do this," Alex replied. Together, they moved silently toward the warehouse. The night was unusually still, a suffocating quiet that made the hair on the back of Alex's neck stand on end. Inside, they could hear the faint chittering of the spider creatures, the telltale sound of webs being spun. As they entered the building, the scene that greeted them was worse than Alex had imagined. The walls were covered in thick, pulsating webs that shimmered with a dark energy. In the center of the warehouse stood a massive stone altar, covered in ancient symbols. Around it, Silthr's minions worked tirelessly, chanting in a language Alex didn't understand, their many legs scuttling across the ground as they completed the final steps of the ritual. And there, standing atop the altar, was Silthr himself. The warlord was larger than any spider creature Alex had seen before, his body a grotesque fusion of arachnid and human-like features. His eyes, all 8 of them, glowed a sickly yellow, and his limbs moved with terrifying precision as he orchestrated the ritual. "You're too late, Guardian," Silthr hissed, his voice reverberating through the warehouse. "The rift will open, and your world will be mine." Alex felt a surge of panic but quickly shoved it down. This was what he had trained for, what Arachnus had prepared him for. He couldn't afford to hesitate now. Without a word, Alex launched himself into the air, his webs propelling him toward Silthr. But the warlord was ready. With a flick of one of his legs, Silthr sent a wave of dark energy toward Alex, knocking him back into the far wall with a sickening thud. Pain shot through Alex's body, but he gritted his teeth and forced himself to stand. He could see the rift forming above the altar, a swirling vortex of shadow and light. If it opened completely, there would be no stopping the invasion. "Focus," Arachnus's voice urged him. "The power of the spider realm flows through you. Use it." Alex steadied his breathing and closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the energy of the realm surge through his veins. When he opened them again, his vision sharpened, and his body felt lighter, more agile. He could sense the threads of the web around him, the connections between the dimensions, and the flow of energy that powered the rift. With renewed determination, Alex launched another attack. This time anticipating Silthr's counterstrike, he twisted in midair, dodging the dark energy and landing a powerful blow to one of Silthr's legs, causing the warlord to screech in pain. Sarah and the web watchers moved in behind him, engaging Silthr's minions in battle. Energy blasts and webbing flew through the air as the two forces clashed, the sounds of battle echoing off the warehouse walls. But Silthr was relentless. Even as his minions fell, he continued the ritual, his chanting growing louder and more frantic as the rift widened. Alex knew they were running out of time. Thinking quickly, Alex focused his energy on the rift itself. He could feel the pull of the spider realm, the way the dimensions were connected by invisible threads. If he could disrupt those connections, maybe just maybe he could stop the rift from opening. He closed his eyes again, reaching out with his mind to the web of energy around him. It was a delicate balance. One wrong move and he could tear the fabric of both worlds apart. But with Arachnus guiding him, Alex found the weak points, the places where the connection between the realms was strongest. With a sharp tug, he pulled at the threads, unraveling the web that held the rift together. The vortex flickered, its light dimming as the connection began to fray. Silthr let out an enraged scream, his eyes locking onto Alex. "You cannot stop this. The realms will merge, and you will be nothing but a memory." But Alex wasn't listening. He could feel the rift weakening, the balance beginning to restore itself. With one final push, he severed the last of the threads, and the rift collapsed in on itself with a deafening roar. Silthr howled in fury as the dark energy surrounding him dissipated. His body, now weakened by the failed ritual, began to crumble. "This isn't over, Guardian," he spat, his voice filled with venom. "I will return, and when I do, your world will fall." With that, Silthr's form disintegrated, leaving nothing but a pile of ash on the altar. The battle was over. Alex stood in the center of the warehouse, breathing heavily as the adrenaline slowly drained from his body. The web watchers moved around him, securing the area and tending to the wounded, but Alex's mind was elsewhere. The rift was closed, and Silthr was gone for now. But the threat of the spider realm still lingered. There were other factions, other forces that could seek to use the realm's power for their own purposes. As if sensing his thoughts, Arachnus spoke. "You have done well, Guardian. But this is only the beginning. The balance between the realms must be maintained, and that is a task that will never truly end." Alex nodded, his gaze fixed on the spot where the rift had been. He knew Arachnus was right. His role as the guardian wasn't over, it had only just begun. The web watchers gathered around him, their faces a mix of relief and gratitude. Sarah stepped forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You did it," she said softly. "You stopped him." "For now," Alex replied, his voice quiet. "But there will be others." Sarah nodded. "And we'll be ready." "You're not in this alone." Alex glanced at the amulet around his neck, its once glowing gemstone now dim. He had been chosen for a reason, and though the weight of that responsibility was heavy, he knew he couldn't walk away from it. The spider realm still held many secrets, and Alex was determined to uncover them both for his world's sake and for his own. As the night stretched on, he stood with his allies, knowing that whatever came next, he would face it head on. The guardian of the spider realm would always be there to protect the balance, no matter the cost.